This episode is the 300th episode of Don't Talk TV, and we'll be commemorating it in a rather inauspicious way by having a look at the fact that we're rapidly approaching 100,000 people being euthanized by so-called medical assistants in dying in Canada. We're going to compare that to another eugenics program, another euthanasia program from the past, from history. Now, it seems, as I said, inauspicious way to commemorate the 300th episode of this channel, but perhaps it's also fitting when we take a look at how this channel started, with an explanation to individuals about the fact that they have no obligation to answer the door in the context of it being illegal to have relatives over for Christmas dinner in the winter of 2020 up to where we are now in 2026. Hello, my name's Nicholas Wansbutter. I'm a lawyer in Stratford, Ontario, Canada, and welcome to Don't Talk TV. So as I said in the preamble, it's our 300th episode, and we'll be talking about a rather grim milestone in Canadian history, that being the approach of 100,000 people killed by what's euphemistically called medical assistants in dying, but is just another word for euthanasia, or the killing of people who are disabled, suffering from serious mental health concerns, and unable to be dealt with by our medical system. We will be comparing that, as I said, to an historical euthanasia program, the so-called Aktion T4 program in Nazi Germany from 1939 to 1945. We'll see the similarities and differences, and what ultimately happened to the physicians who, during the Nazi regime, acted 100% in accordance with the law and were granting what they believed were mercy killings, or it's called mercy deaths, or Gnadentat. We see very similar explanations, justifications from medical practitioners today. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of that, I first of all have to thank all of our viewers who've been with us from the beginning, those who've stuck with us and continued to watch up to 300 episodes, which is, I think, a significant achievement to have recorded 300 episodes. It's hard to believe we've done that many. And if you like this channel and you haven't already done so, please subscribe, please share and spread the word, and please comment as well, because that really helps us with the algorithms. Now, one last bit of housekeeping before we get into the topic, a message from RAM Design Group, which helps make Don't Talk TV a reality.
Are you looking to increase your target market audience? Reach and/or engage with current or potential clients on social media? Or are you simply looking to rebrand or revamp a current or up-and-coming company or business? Well, look no further than RAM Design Group, Inc., your public relations insurance plan for your next company event, new product launch, or marketing campaign overhaul. RAM Design Group, Inc. specializes in marketing, event planning, product launches, communications, social media management, crisis management, copywriting, and much, much more. Please visit ramdesigngroup.inc.ca for more information, or email us at rmitchell@ramdesigngroup.inc.ca and book your company's future success today.
So with all that said, let's get straight into it. The starting point is this article from the National Post. It's from back in February. Now, we don't have official government data, so we may well have already reached 100,000, although the article suggested that Canada likely to mark the 100,000th MAID death by summer. Now, I think this chart here really lays out the nature of euthanasia in Canada and its rapid expansion. This black line here makes it look like the rate of growth is dropping, but really, when you look at it, it's increased by 2,000 to 3,000 every year. We have 5,461 in 2019, up to 7,451 in 2020. Roughly 2,000 more people were killed by euthanasia in 2020 versus 2019, then going up to 9,842, et cetera, until we're now up to 15,767 in 2024. Although, well, that's the track one. Once you add in track two, we're then up over 16,000 per year. Now, the rate of growth may be slowing, but as you can see, it's the overall number of deaths is significantly increasing every year, such that it's become one of the top causes of death in Canada. So as the article points out here, in addition to now charting MAID as one of its leading causes of death, Canada will also become the first country of the modern era to measure its total euthanasia deaths in the six figures. The 100,000 figure has recently been popularized by Canada anti-MAID activist Kelsey Sharon. She states in a recent op-ed that her country is about to kill its 100,000th citizen through medical assistance in dying. And this would seem to be something very worthy of considering. This is certainly not insignificant how many people are being killed by euthanasia in Canada. And I think when we get into the historical part of this episode, you'll see how striking that 100,000 number is, especially if one compares the population of Canada to the population of Germany in 1939, when the Aktion T4 program commenced. Now, I also want to take a look at this report here. We're on page 22 of this report, MDRC Report 2024, Complex Same-Day, Next-Day Provisions. So navigating complex issues within same-day and next-day MAID provisions. You can see this is a report prepared by the Minister of the Solicitor General, Office of the Chief Coroner. So this is an official government document that we have here. This was recently covered by Western Standard, but I prefer to go to the direct source rather than having another individual's interpretation of things. Now, so this is a case here. Mrs. B was a female in her 80s who had a challenging medical trajectory following coronary artery bypass graft, experienced several post-operative sequelae, including wound, dehiscence, osteomyelitis, and respiratory failure. So she was elected for palliative approach to care. She reportedly expressed a desire for MAID to her family. Now, this is just hearsay because she never said that to any of the actual MAID practitioners. She allegedly said this to her family, and in response, on the same day, her spouse contacted a referral service on her behalf. So this to me sounds like this was clearly driven by her family and driven specifically by her spouse, because when she actually spoke to the MAID assessor, she said that she wanted to withdraw that request, citing personal and religious values and beliefs. So the only information we have is that when she actually spoke to an assessor, she said, no, I do not want to be killed by a physician. However, then the next day she presented in the emergency department. Now she was discharged home. So clearly it was not that emergent of a situation in that qualified medical practitioners deemed that she did not need to remain at the hospital. She was sent home. So then on the same day, her spouse now contacted the Provincial MAID Coordination Service requesting an urgent assessment. And a different assessor from the first one, from the previous day, was assigned. The seemingly dramatic change, and see, now this is in this government document. They say the possibility of coercion or undue influence due to caregiver burnout was a concern. However, this second assessor approved her for MAID. A third assessor talked to her. They found her eligible, and she was killed that evening. Now, I would call this murder, and I think legally that's still an accurate description. The difference being that by law, it's a murder that there's a defense to it. It's justified under our law. It's legally justified. Morally, I personally would say absolutely not, but it is murder. It is the willful, intentional, planned killing of human being. Now, this case is one that I haven't heard mentioned in mainstream or legacy media. Only alternate media is covering it. It's something that should cause people a lot of concern and pause when considering these laws and considering euthanasia programs of the past. So this brings me to discuss Nazi Germany's Aktion T4 program. This term was not the official term used by the Nazi government. It was used in post-World War II trials of the physicians who were in charge of this and who conducted the killings. The T4 refers to Tiergartenstrasse 4, which is the address of the chancellery which recruited physicians into its program. Then you can find online, right on Wikipedia, they have a copy of the letter written by Hitler authorizing this. And what he specifically authorized was for certain physicians to select patients who were, quote, deemed incurably sick after a most critical examination, unquote. This, of course, is a translation from German to English. And then administer a mercy death, or the German word Gnadentat, but translated is a mercy death. So I think one can see the clear similarities between the wording and justifications between Canada's MAID program and the Third Reich's euthanasia program. It's directed towards individuals deemed incurably sick who've had a medical examination. And that's very similar to the wording we see in Canada, where there has to be an irreversible, untreatable medical condition. Just a different way of saying incurably sick. September the 1st of 1939 is when Hitler backdated that authorization for these physicians. By the end of the war in 1945, numbers vary on how many people had been killed in this program. You can find estimates or numbers from as low as around 70,000 up to the Holocaust Encyclopedia says 250,000. Although the Wikipedia says 200,000 in Germany, plus another 100,000 outside of Germany. And it's, in terms of Germany, what I've looked into consider the borders of the Third Reich as of September the 1st, 1939. So that included modern-day Germany, Austria, Czechoslovakia, or Czech Republic, and some other areas, portions of Poland that were then Germany. The total population of that area was 79.4 million. So that is roughly double the population of Canada. Again, you have these varying numbers, but say if we go 200,000 is somewhat of a mid-range, or that's actually the upper range. That's how much the Holocaust Encyclopedia says were killed. Or actually, I believe they said 250,000. Wikipedia says 200,000, but the low end you have 70,000. If we go with 200,000, 6 years, that's 33,000 per year in a country with double Canada's population. Very 16,000 per year times 2, that would be 32,000 per year. So Canada's 2024 number per year is very similar to the average over a 6-year period of the Third Reich's Aktion T4 program. Now, what happened after the war? I mean, again, this under the Third Reich's laws, completely legal, completely within the bounds of their law, but they lost World War II. And the physicians were prosecuted. The biggest trial being the so-called doctor's trial by an American military tribunal, December of 1946. There were 23 physicians prosecuted. 7 of them were sentenced to death. 16 were found guilty. So I think that's interesting because you have physicians who were acting in complete accordance with the laws of their country. After that government ceased to exist, they were prosecuted for crimes against humanity. I think that Well, of course, that was always the argument that used to be used by our government, that wrong is wrong, whether it's legal or not. But now there's more of a legal positivism. Well, it's legal, but it's very interesting when you look, the same justifications are used. Now, of course, I'm sure modern physicians would be appalled by the comparison, would say this is totally different. And there is the major difference that needs to be pointed out is that it was forced. It was not requested by individuals in Nazi Germany. It was imposed upon them. In Canada, it is on request. However, can we say that those requests are completely uncoerced? And again, consider that's just one example, but nevertheless, it's an example that was considered by the Canadian government in their assessment of M.A.I.D. One doubts that that is a one-off or that that's never happened. You also hear reports of individuals being offered M.A.I.D. rather than being offered medical treatment otherwise, and our medical healthcare system is completely backlogged and falling apart. The economy is falling apart. Society is falling apart. Can one say it's completely uncoerced when people are led to despair by the way things are going in Canada and offered M.A.I.D? Now, they're not forced, but they're offered, they're persuaded. I leave those questions for you to consider, and I welcome your comments in the comments section of what you think and what you think about the comparison. Is it a valid comparison? What other differences might there be between the two programs? I'm interested to see some discussion in the comments section. And just as a reminder, we will be taking a break over the summer, at least from Don't Talk TV. We'll see what the fall bears, whether it will involve a rebranding, a different schedule. Not entirely sure at this point. I'm not making any final decisions until we've taken that bit of a step back to reassess what's worked, what hasn't worked, and what direction we may want to go with Don't Talk TV. That said, as always, this video is not legal advice. If you need legal advice, contact a lawyer. If you want me to be that lawyer, my contact information, my website and phone number are listed below. If you want to ask a question or make a show recommendation specific to Don't Talk TV, ask that you email don'ttalktv@protonmail.com. If you found this video at all interesting, helpful, or informative, please consider liking, sharing, subscribing, and following us on social media. And please be sure to join us for our live episode, 7 p.m., the first Thursday of June, as that will be our last episode for a little while.